I have done several videos where I try to beat Pokemon in a modified version of the games where you can't gain experience points. This is not the same, this is way harder, and this drove me insane. Today we're using a completely vanilla, unmodified cartridge of Pokemon Blue. But if we level up, I have to reset, I lose. You might wonder how a challenge like this is even possible, and it's going to involve catching a lot of Pokemon, switching the Pokemon I use often, and it's going to be extremely time consuming. Before we get into the run, I want to acknowledge something. Yes, Smallant did do this exact video in Sapphire, and I was like, oh boy, what a great idea. I'll do this in Red and Blue. And before you accuse me of being a copycat, you don't need to. I'm openly admitting to copying the idea, just in a different game. But Smallant actually apparently also took this idea from Pointcrow. So this is just the great creator continuum. You see an idea that looks good, or in this case, awful, and you put your own spin on it. Although, in my defense, Red and Blue, for whatever reason, a lot of creators seem to like Gen 3 and Gen 4 better. So we get it to ourselves. Hooray! Trust me, they aren't going to want to do this after they see this video. This run was awful. But you know what isn't awful? I love myself some retro games, and I've been playing a ton of NES games lately, and thanks to today's sponsor, Whatnot, my collection has been growing and growing, and I got another couple great finds via Whatnot. So for those of you who don't know, Whatnot is the #1 live auction website, and while I've been using it to buy retro games, there's more than that there. There's stuff like sports memorabilia. I actually last time bought a Yu-Gi-Oh card, so you can get trading cards there. And you can get like modern non-retro games as well if you so choose. But rather than just telling you how this all works, let me show you. All right, what are we gonna get today? Let's go for some retro games. Astronax. All right, let's get this. It's $3. It's $4. I can get this. $8. I'm not there. I'm winning. I'm winning again. I'm winning with Jrose 11. No. $15. I got this. I got this. All right, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna be a little bit sneaky this time. There we go. Oh, it adds more time. That's how it works. All right, 3, 2, 1. Hey, all right, 2 NES games. Let's go. We're gonna have them all soon. That was fun, although I'm very embarrassed. I completely butchered the name. I think it's Astionax, not Astronax. But hey, it'll play the same, and it looks like a fun game. And if you want to find whether it be retro games, well, I got good news for you. By scanning my QR code right here, or using the link in the description, you will get $15 off your first purchase. So what are you waiting for? Come join the fun and find something cool. Now, since leveling up isn't something we need to do, I actually don't want to get into any more battles than I have to. And this very first battle, if we win, well, then we level up. Now, I would recommend you watch Smallant's video because his video was insane in order to bypass the first battle since you actually have to win that battle. We don't. We can just lose this fight and then not gain any experience points. This is a good time to talk about the rules for this challenge. I'm not going to be using any items in battle. I'm not going to be trading or using any other games. And we're not going to be using glitches, cheats, skips, anything like that. Unless the game glitches because it's just broken, in which case that's fair game. Because Red and Blue comes with unique Red and Blue rules, or Red and Blues, if you will. But yeah, that's battle #1, easy to lose. But now you might be thinking, wait a minute, Brock has a level 12 Geodude and a level 14 Onix? And since you can't level up, what is the strongest Pokemon you can get? Answer to that is a level 6 Metapod or Kakuna. So how in the world are we going to beat Brock? Well, thankfully, I have done this challenge without gaining any experience points with a modified version of the game. I'm going to use a modified version of the strategy, which is 1,000 times harder because we need to make sure we don't gain enough experience points for any of our Pokemon to level up, which is way easier said than done. Let's get to it. Now, you may notice that the game is looking kind of reddish. I switched to red version. I'll talk about why in a second, but I'm going to show you the first battle ever. So here is the idea, and we're going to have to reset a ton. We lead with level 5 Pidgey because level 5 Pidgey has Sand Attack, and then we use 6 Sand Attacks. Now, ideally the Pidgey actually would need to survive because we're going to need it again for Onix, so I just reset. Now, what I can do to make things even a little safer is actually lead with a level 5 Spearow, and then I can go for Growl a few times so that level 5 Pidgey, if I do get hit by Tackle, well, if I get crit, then that's a problem, but you can see what the strategy is in my third battle. We go for Sand Attack, we go for Growl, so Geodude is both weak and misses a lot. But alright, so you weakened it, it's gonna miss. How do you actually knock it out? The answer is simpler than you think. We're just gonna tackle it. A lot. You know in Dragon Ball Z Abridged, let's just hit it really hard? Yeah, in this case, it's let's just hit it a lot of times with very many Pokemon. Now, we need to make sure none of our Pokemon faint, because Geodude's going to give a ton of experience points. In fact, I have no idea if this challenge would even be feasible in Pokemon Black and White, where the amount of experience points you gain is dependent on your level difference. But in our case, it isn't. And by splitting the experience point this way, our Squirtle slowly but surely knocks out Geodude. Everything gains 43 experience points, including a Kakuna that is just there to soak up experience points. And now we make it to Onix. So the idea is to lead with Spearow, but when I get hit by Screech, I get nervous. And then I try to use Poison Sting with Weedle. I was hoping at level 5, Weedle's Poison Sting would do enough damage to hit. Now you might be wondering, why is it missing? Well, this is actually why I picked red version, and this is why I'm going to go back to blue version. So the thing is, in Generation 1, there is, I think, a bug, no pun intended, where if a move is double resisted, it has the chance to do 0 damage. This is not the case in any other Pokemon game. It will always do at least 1, but in this case, it won't. If I were to have poisoned Onix, it will full heal 5 times, but I was hoping after that it just would stop full healing, and I would be able to knock it out that way. Unfortunately, that simply won't work. And since Caterpie has marginally better defense than Weedle and Poison Sting isn't an option, I just swap back to blue version where I didn't delete the save file, right? I just started a different one in red, so I can just resume. Now, you might be wondering something as I battle Brock another time. Jrose, I understand how you're going to split experience points so that everything doesn't level up after Geodude. You showed you can do that. But what about Onix? There's just no mathematical way you can do it. Well, let's speed up until we get to Onix because this takes 5 ever, 6 ever, 7 ever. And you will see what I do here. There is a Pokemon that is the linchpin to this victory, and it's one you wouldn't expect. But first things first, I've got to weaken Onix to as weak as we can get it. And then I have a Pokemon that I have at just 1 HP with no power points. And that Pokemon is Metapod. I need to be extra Bobextra sure that this Onix really is at 1 HP. Obviously, I can't see its HP. And this strategy is very convoluted because I need a ton of things to happen. You're going to see that eventually Metapod will use Struggle and knock it out, knocking itself out. But sadly, the Onix didn't knock out Caterpie yet. So Caterpie gained all the experience points. That was a mistake. I forgot that it needed to knock out the Caterpie, and this had taken me about 40 minutes to get this battle. But here is the strategy. Against Geodude, we're still leading with Spearow and going for Growls. We chose the number 3 Growls, and then we go to Pidgey and use, I believe it's 3 Sand Attacks. This is all mathematically calculated. It's 4 Sand Attacks. These are not random numbers, by the way. 3 Growls lowers it to a very useful range, and 4 Sand Attacks was the probability was best for the victory. I don't know, I had some really smart people in math tell me that, and I just trusted them. Anyway, then we whittle down Geodude's health and knock it out with all our Pokemon. And we need to make sure we use enough Pokemon so that it splits the experience points enough ways so that nothing levels up. We also need to make sure that the one that knocks it out is Pidgey, because Pidgey needs to start versus Onix. And it's going to use Sand Attack, which is a double-edged sword. Because while we want Onix to miss, we also need Onix to eventually KO the Pidgey and the Spearow. It is a very difficult balancing act We can lower its attack with Growl as well. Of course, it can use Screech. And then eventually, we actually just stall and try to whittle down its HP, get everything as low as possible, and we balance doing damage, taking damage, so that Metapod can one-shot it. We get a super duper bo booper parshmooper critical hit, clutch hit. We're at 1 HP. It uses Screech and misses. And take it away, live Jrose. Yes! Let's go! I can't believe we did it. Oh my god, that took forever. Oh my god. That battle takes forever because not only did I have to spend 3 in-game hours setting up, getting Metapod struggle, making sure it didn't faint, catching all the Pokemon, etc. The battle itself takes a really, really, really long time. And I did it, oh my god, like, I don't know, dozens of times. This was horrendous. And you know what the worst part is? It's not like it's over or anything, because now we have to deal with the fact there are a lot of mandatory trainers, and all of them have Pokemon that if I gain enough experience points, I'm gonna level up, and we actually need to battle at the very least 4 of these trainers before we get access to stronger Pokemon that can take more experience points and, more importantly, deal more damage. It's funny, not that I shouldn't celebrate, but I was so happy I beat Brock, I didn't really fathom just how awful the next few trainers would be. Catching Pokemon, setting up power points, etc. For the first bug catcher, and we're just going to speed through the battle, but you can kind of get a glimpse of the constant switching, making sure that the correct Pokemon is there to knock it out. And yeah, this is all, like, Kakuna has struggle. All of this is calculated. All of this, every single battle, and this was a really fun stream to do and for people to watch. Every single move is planned, because if anything goes wrong, you either gain too much experience points and level up, or you just lose, which with level 5 Pokemon is common. And yeah, it was very difficult to get this one done. How long did it take for Metapod to struggle and knock it out? 25 minutes. 25 minutes. And you can see I'm at 4:25 in-game time. You can see I'm popping off again, just beating this bug catcher. And we still have 3 more trainers that we need to beat before we're going to get some reinforcements, some much needed reinforcements. I should mention, by the way, I do have species claws, but what I call modified species claws. I will not use 2 of the same Pokemon at a time, but we are constantly catching new versions of each Pokemon. If you're wondering, how is that Spearow or Caterpie, etc. not leveling up? We are catching new versions. That's part of why each battle takes so long. I am allowed to catch new versions of the Pokemon. I really should have nicknamed them so you know which iteration it is. I think I had like 12 Pidgey by the end or something. It's crazy. But yes, that's what we're doing. Now, I'm not going to go into this much detail about every trainer, but I will have you know, spoiler for mid-game, there is a strategy that you may have already envisioned that I'm definitely going to use to speed things up significantly, but it's going to take a while to get to it. And I do mean significantly because to beat the second trainer, this youngster, and again, I'm sorry things are going very fast. It might be hard to exactly see what's going on, but it took 20 minutes. 20 minutes. And once again, part of that is catching fresh Metapod, Kakuna. Well, not both. It just depends which one gained experience points. And then getting them to use all their hard-ins, having to use struggle and knock itself out. That is a key piece of the strategy. If we can knock ourselves out when we knock out an opponent, we don't gain any experience points. And there are going to be moves like takedown, double edge. Those are going to help us. Of course, there's another move that will help us infinitely more, but we don't have access to that right now. And there are still 2 trainers before we get our reinforcements in Zubat, Geodude, and potentially Clefable. I chose to battle the last instead of the bug catcher because less Pokemon is better, even though this Rattata absolutely, and the Nidoran, mind you, were frustrating as heck. It took so many attempts, so many attempts This one trainer, mind you, took almost as long as Brock did because I'd get knocked out by Rattata. Or, see, the problem with the sand attack strategy is we talked about the double-edged swordness of it all, but it really is where we would never get just the Goldilocks situation, where the Nidoran isn't knocking out Pokemon too early and we're actually able to weaken it, but at the same time, when we needed to clear the board, so to speak, of all the Pokemon I had previously used to weaken it, it's actually able to do so because oftentimes I would run out of power points for like Tail Whip or something, and then I'd either have to knock it out or swap back and forth aimlessly. Guys, it was terrible, but finally we got one miraculous battle where everything went right. 40 minutes, we're at 642 of in-game time, and we still have one more trainer, and you can see, like that Pidgey, we are calculating it down to the experience point. That is how exact a science this whole thing is. And yeah, you can see, all right, that Metapod is gone. Actually, it's important you guys see this. All right, this Caterpie has 5 more. I'm going to be doing this after every battle, looking at what Pokemon I can keep using and which I need to discard. And I think I need to discard almost all of them this time. So we're going to fill up our boxes with just a bunch of Pokemon, and money may even become an issue at the early game, although hopefully it won't. We only need a few more before we can enter Mount Moon. And remember, each battle is such a slog, it's not as if I can grind money by having easy battles. There are no easy battles. These are the easy battles, and I'm not able to win. I will say, I prefer making YouTube videos to streaming. My stream knows that. You guys know that now. But this is an example of where the stream and the summary video, it's not going to always give you the fullest idea of how frustrating and how calculated it had to be, because you're just seeing the end result. You're just seeing how I got it right. But it takes minutes, in this case, tens of minutes to get there, which is nuts considering I am playing with speed up thanks to the Retron, although I could probably play one of these on Pokemon Stadium too. I like the Game Boy Color aesthetic though. It's what I played as a kid, and on the Game Boy Tower for Pokemon Stadium, it uses the multicolor Super Game Boy enhancements, so to speak, which they're great, but not what I want. Now, this final bug catcher, if you know your bug catchers, you'll know that this trainer is interesting in that he has a Metapod of his own, and the problem that we're going to face is that in Generation 1, opponents do not have power points. So in theory, we could just, in Fire Red Leaf Green, make Metapods struggle. But in our case, we actually have to use our own Metapods and Kakunas to weaken it. And this was actually very difficult to do, was to weaken it just enough. Well, honestly, the perfect amount, since we're only dealing back to ourselves one recoil each time, so that we either faint or don't gain enough experience points. But sometimes I miscalculate and forget to swap in the extra Pokemon, and yeah. And you might wonder, Jrose, why don't you have 6 Pokemon? I have run out of money. Well, almost run out of money. I still can, theoretically, by selling some stuff, get another Pokeball and another Pokemon, but that would mean I possibly would have one less Pokemon later on in Mount Moon, which could be a problem. Unfortunately for later Jrose, I just got frustrated, and after making sure I swap everything in, I actually do the calculation right this time. 55 experience points split between Pikachu, which is in the medium fast group, and Metapod and Kakuna. It's just enough that I can knock it out. None of them level up. And we have made it to Grass and Mount Moon. And that means we have Pokemon that are much higher levels. They're going to be stronger. They're going to defend better. They're going to soak up more experience points. Things are looking up. 3 hours. I want to point out to you that in real time, it has taken me 3 hours and I have gotten to Mount Moon. This is like a record. Now, there are only 2 mandatory trainers before we get even more access to Pokemon. Although at that point, to get even more Pokemon, we have to battle Rival 2 and Nugget Bridge. So it is a little scary. And scarier still is once I exit Mount Moon, I cannot re-enter it. So the Pokemon here are going to either have to last me, or I'm going to have to use the Route 4 Pokemon in order to beat Rival 2 and all of Nugget Bridge, although not the trainers to the northeast of Nugget Bridge. Those ones I'll have additional Pokemon for. Now, I do have to speed things along, so I'll just show you the successful battle against the Rocket. You can see I have a level 12 Zubat, still using a level 5 Rattata and level 5 Spearow to soak up experience points, as well as a level 6 Metapod. Paris is at level 12, and it will knock out Rattata. And then Zubat comes out. I need to split experience among the right number of Pokemon here, so I swap. But unfortunately, the level 5s and 6s, they're done. So I need to split it amongst the 3 powerful Pokemon. And you can see that they still have 390. I mean, Geodude only has 133. But other than Geodude, everything is fine. The weak ones, though, are going to need to be replaced for either other weak ones or Magikarp or something like that. But yeah, there's a lot of going back to the Pokemon Center and getting new Pokemon, which is tedious, but very necessary. Unfortunately, at this point, the Super Nerd really walled me because money was starting to become a real issue. I was able to defeat him, but as you're going to see, after beating him, I only have, not including the items, 700 Pokédollars. That's it. That's nothing. How in the world are we going to beat Rival 2 and get by Nugget Bridge with just... I mean, I guess after we beat Rival 2, we can catch more Pokemon and then beat the next trainer and catch more Pokemon. But there's a lot of, like, bug catchers and youngsters that don't give a ton of money. I don't know, guys. It's starting to get a little iffy here. All right, so how does Rival 2 go? So we lead with a level 12 Sandshrew, fresh off Route 4, and it has Sand Attack, which is great. Now we can swap into Zubat, which has Supersonic. And in theory, we can have Pidgeotto knock itself out while we swap around. That's the strat. It didn't work, at least at first. Thankfully, it didn't take 40 minutes or 30 minutes, but it actually just took a literal minute. 1 minute. This is a new record, and it shows when you actually get access to better Pokemon how much easier things are. Now, again, everything is very calculated, which Pokemon I use where, and we did have enough Pokeballs and items to sell that we're able to assemble a team of level 10 and 12 Pokemon. The swapping is important, and everything here is being strictly calculated because I need to use the right Pokemon for the right moments coming up on Nugget Bridge. You can see I'm typically not gaining any more than 50 to 80 experience points per Pokemon. And after I win each battle, I then have to go check, double check, calculate. So Sandshrew is 225, Geodude is 125. Now remember, we can get more Sandshrew in Rattata, we can't get more Geodude or Zubat. So we need to be more careful with them, but the Rival 2 battle was the most difficult, and thus I wasn't hesitant to use those in the more challenging battle. At this point, the game is going to start to speed up, and we can speed it up even further. You see, while it's taken me just 20 minutes to beat the 5 Nugget Bridge trainers, this Team Rocket trainer I have a really good team for. All right, here we go. Rocket sends out Ekans. I send out level 5 Caterpie. Oh no, I lost. Darn it. How could I allow this to occur? Ooh, a shiny nugget. Let's go battle him again. Oh. Well, that's not what I thought would happen. I thought I'd battle him again and I'd get another nugget. But no, if you lose to him, you just lose. This is a normal game. This isn't modified in any way. Okay. Cool. So I guess we can avoid experience points just by losing to this guy and we still get the nugget. It's at this point I get access to routes 24 and 25, which gives me some new Pokemon, which is really good because that means higher levels and stronger Pokemon. We also do get that nugget, which is 5,000 Pokédollars, which is great for Pokeballs. So we're in a really good spot here. I'm not going to show the trainers because they're going a lot quicker now because we can actually just knock things out and swap. And that's what we want to do at this point. Just spread experience points, swap a bunch, and then use a strong Pokemon like Bellsprout, for example, in blue version. 1 Vine Whip's enough, and then Sandshrew, everything gets 97. Sure, the experience points numbers are growing, and we're going to have to be a little careful. Like, Sandshrew is done, so we're going to have to replace it. But aside from just having to catch another Sandshrew, I'm gaining enough money, and I used to bike a lot of places when I was a kid. And you know, when you get to a really tall incline, a long incline section, not even a hill, right? Like just a long section of going slightly uphill, and it's just a little annoying. And then there's one huge part where it's really steep. Yeah, well, we're finally starting to go downhill, and that's nice because I've been waiting a really long time, and it means that this run is going to start to speed up, both for us because I'll have less to talk about, and for past Jrose, which I'm going to tell you, I am him. He really appreciated that. Now, do you want to guess how long it took from the first battle with Rival 2 all the way to Bill's house? 40 minutes, which is a very long time, but considering it was taking me 40 minutes per trainer, and we just fought, what is it, like 10, 12 trainers? You can see how much things are speeding up. And we're not going to battle Misty here. There is absolutely no reason to battle her, and we don't have the Pokemon we need. But we're going to get one very soon that actually won't help much with Misty, but will help a lot of other places. And who's that Pokemon? It's level 31 Dugtrio. Trio. And yeah, level 31 Dugtrio is one of the weirdest, cheapest things that Pokemon has ever introduced. It is way over leveled to be just I mean, at this point, I only have one gym badge. And it takes a really long time to catch it because this thing is so over-leveled. But at level 31, although it's not quite as overpowered as it is in the modified 0 XP challenge, in that challenge, I can exclusively just use Dugtrio to steamroll through the next part of the game. But unfortunately for us, since we do need to worry about it leveling up, even though, yes, we can just catch more if we need, they're hard to find. It does take a while, and although this isn't a speed run, I do want to make this less awful for myself. So we still will need to do a bit of swapping and making sure other Pokemon soak up some experience points. But we do have a great finisher that can just knock out Pokemon in a single hit with Dig, which is a base 100 power move. This is ridiculously broken, and hopefully things are going to go really quickly now. The funny thing is, we don't even need Dugtrio at this point because we got some great Pokemon on Route 11, like Jrose, Spearow level 17, Pidgey level 16, level 15 Sandshrew, level 16 Meowth, and a level 22 Diglett. Because, like I just said, it will level up eventually, so might as well use these weaker Pokemon while we can use them. And again, I won't use both a Diglett and a Dugtrio, so we still have this Diglett that's perfectly usable. In fact, you can see that at some points I just get frustrated and give it a ton of experience points, because who cares? Because we're not going to be using this Diglett very long, since we can just swap for another Diglett or Dugtrio, but nothing levels up, and I have beaten Rival 3 unbelievably quickly, at least in the context of this challenge. Now, Misty, I was a little bit more worried about. We're still going to lead with Drowsy because using Hypnosis is a very strong opening move, and I still don't want to use Dugtrio. We're still going for a very similar strategy to Brock, actually, and we're going to use a bunch of different Pokemon. In fact, I'm going to go Leer, I'm going to use Meowth and Spearow and Sandshrew, and all these Pokemon that aren't going to be super great in Rock Tunnel, but seem to be doing the job now, and then finish it off with Bellsprout, who at level 16 has Vine Whip and Poison Powder. They all gain 64. I'm gonna use Poison Powder maybe? Let's just go for Wrap actually and just see how much we can get. Maybe I should have gone Poison Powder then Wrap. Unfortunately, Starmie knocks me out. I should have just gone to Drowsy and Hypnosis. Actually, maybe we'll do this again. So I'm gonna have to do this a few more times, but eventually we'll get it. I'll show you guys the winning battle. It won't be too bad. Unfortunately, at this point, I'd been doing this challenge for almost 6 hours, and I was starting to get annoyed. So I opted just to kind of go for the, hey, I have a level 31 Dugtrio. Why aren't I using it at this point, actually? Can we just use it? So I just swap everything in like I talked about. And then, hey, level 31 Dugtrio. Go for Dig. Yay! It's fine. 64 experience points is nothing. And then I go, Pidgey gets sacrificed. That's all right. Drowsy puts Starmie to sleep. And then, same thing. Just go Spearow. Go Meowth. All right, X defend is fine. Go Bellsprout. And go Dugtrio. And it may take 2 hits, I'm not sure. It does, and Bubble Beam is super effective, but it didn't crit. And now, darn it. All right, so I need Pidgey to survive, or I can't use this Drowsy. I just miscalculated by like 6 experience points. Well, it turns out Misty took like about 7 minutes overall, which is longer than I thought. I mean, the strategy was solid. Like, it was a good strategy. We just needed 6 Pokemon to be alive. And then pretty much we just needed good luck with Starmie. Oh, or Drowsy to faint. Actually, yeah, we could just have Drowsy faint because it was the problem Pokemon. And turns out if Drowsy faints, we actually can take 229 experience on a bunch of our Pokemon. And even though that's 100 more than I'd like to give Dugtrio, if you look at Dugtrio very quickly, if we just browse through our Pokemon, I mean, oops, I wanted to look at Dugtrio, but it's like several thousand experience points. It really is a long ways away from leveling up. So we actually don't have to be that careful. And again, we can just go and get another one if we need it. So in fact, after the battle with the Lass, it's at 2531. It's going to take a while for this thing to actually level up. And those really useful moves I keep hinting at that should make this a lot quicker, we're almost there. We almost have them. Well, at least a couple of them, but we're almost there. Now, I'm going to skip most of Rock Tunnel, but everyone's favorite trainer, I call him Whitgag, and we want the opposite of what we usually want. We want Self-Destruct, because if it goes for Self-Destruct, then my Pokemon don't gain any experience points. I had to reset a lot to get it, and you can see I have a Voltorb. Hey, Voltorb. I mean, catching Pokemon from different routes is what I do. Find out Voltorb doesn't have Self-Destruct, and then we have Sandshrew. We go for Sand Attack, which actually was a mistake, but that's okay. And then Zubat, it's level 18 Zubat, so it's brand new. And we just need a Self-Destruct here. All right, we don't get it. It's fine because we can just go and heal. Just please use Self-Destruct. Come on, you know you want to. You know you want to. You know you want to use Self-Destruct. Here's Machop, level 17. Hey, there we go. So 0 experience points, and Dugtrio can just dig out and we can heal. I mean, with all the catching replacement Pokemon, going back to the center to swap the Pokemon, this run is a slog, but we're making real progress. After getting through Rock Tunnel, I head back to beat Lieutenant Surge, and you can see it's just swapping Pokemon, but I do need to be careful because some Pokemon can take less experience than others, so I just need to make sure the right Pokemon appear in the right battles, but I mathed it all out, and in the end, I make sure that I have the exact perfect Pokemon I need. You can see none of them are Pokemon I'm actually using anymore. Sometimes I discard Pokemon simply because I get a stronger one, and they still have experience points to give. But yeah, they were all perfectly good to use versus Surge. You'll see me checking experience points, trying to double, triple check my math. This is the most calculations I've ever done for a run, but in the end, it works out, and with just about 100 or so experience points, sometimes less on each of these Pokemon, they're pretty much all done, but they did their job and they're underpowered anyway for this point in the game. So I'm pretty happy with that. We have much stronger Pokemon in the box, which you'll see very soon. Now, I do want to show them all off, but before then, I will show off this Meowth, and you're seeing I'm using Payday just to get a little bit of extra money. But now here is our good friend Dugtrio, and we have Takedown, which is purchasable from the Pokemart, and if I can get things just right, and a critical hit was needed, I can knock myself out and gain 0 experience points in the whole battle. You can see I'm at 27 in-game hours, and I am going to go battle Erica and get that badge. A little bit later, though, first I went to battle Giovanni. There were some trainers, so I've actually spent about 40 minutes, and you can see I'm trying to use Meowth and Bellsprout and Doduo because we're going to actually knock out this Onix like a regular Pokemon. Ooh, Spearow survived. That's good. I believe this was my 4th attempt at this battle, and we're just going to use Dig and knock out the Onix. 96 experience points for everything is fine. Then for Rhyhorn, we're going to go into Meowth, and I'm going to go into Bellsprout, and I'm going to go into Doduo, and I'm going to go into Eevee. Now, going into Spearow is a little risky, so I'm just going to go back into Dugtrio and just go for Dig, and now everything gets 138 experience points. Now, I'm going to switch into Spearow. Actually, that's so funny. I'm going to have it get knocked out. I'm going to go into Bellsprout and try and put Kangaskhan to sleep. Oh, now it's going for Rage, which is a very good and predictable move. So I can go to Dugtrio, and then, all right, back to Bellsprout. I'm going to have it knock me out with Rage. All right, let's go to Sleep Powder. And then I can start to set up takedowns. And I just need to get this. Ooh, is this going to work? Actually, maybe I use Growl. Wait, Growl won't work because it's using Rage. All right, I think I need to up its attack. So it does quite a bit of damage, but I got to be careful here. All right, there's Rage. Okay, and then I guess actually, I think I've split it well enough. I can just go for Dig. Okay. So this is always what I have to be thinking. How much do I have? Yeah, Meowth, I had 7 left. Spearow, I have 700. That's good. Dugtrio, another 340. All right, so we're going to have to replace that. Eevee's doing well. Doduo's pretty good, and Bellsprout's got to be replaced. But hey, we're pretty far into the game. We're about at the halfway point. This is going okay. I mean, 7 hours of real time. Listen, it's been a slog, and there's a lot of Pokemon I'm withdrawing, depositing, but the money is starting to add up. So it starts to be more about, I don't want to waste too much time, and less about, oh no, I can't actually physically get this Pokemon without spending too much money. And speaking of money, I have enough for Great Balls, and I can use Repels with Dugtrio number 1 to catch Dugtrio number 2. Again, this is modified Species Clause, and a Nuzlocke, once you use 1 Diglett or Dugtrio, that's the only one you can use. For our run, we simply can't use 2 Dugtrio in one team, but we have another now 3,000 experience points to soak into this thing. It is kind of a fun little hybrid way of doing things, and I still haven't battled Erica, but I am going to battle Rival 4. Now, again, I've been showing you the successful battles because figuring out the exact switching and strategy just isn't very interesting and takes a long time. So I'm going to fast forward to the winning battle here. Sadly, it took 20 minutes to beat Rival 4. Typically an easy battle, but nothing in this game is easy. You can see that a lot of my Pokemon have takedown, and I need Doduo to knock itself out, but that basically relies on Pidgeotto doing certain things. Oh, actually, this could work. And there we go. That's 1 Pokemon for 1 Pokemon. And then my Raticate's at a very specific HP value, because typically that's the HP value I would need to knock out Gyarados. There was a lot of guessing and checking. That's what took 20 minutes, guys. And then for Growlithe, we're going to knock it out in the traditional manner, just swapping in Pokemon, and then making sure the Pokemon that I have finally knocking it out, in this case Dugtrio, is the Pokemon I want versus the next Pokemon, Kadabra. Although actually, I probably didn't, and I am going to swap back and forth a bunch. Again, money isn't infinite, so I do need to limit the experience points as much as possible. But we can go Takedown here, start to weaken ourselves. 153 isn't so bad. And then I'm going to try to knock myself out with Takedown. I kind of doubt whether I'm going to do it. And so I start swapping just to kind of knock it out in the traditional manner. Unfortunately, Spearow gets knocked out, and I just decide to go for Dig. That's 250 on 3 Pokemon. That's definitely doable. And although this isn't the perfect battle, if we knock every single Pokemon out with Takedown, that's the ideal battle. But most of my Pokemon still have plenty of experience points left to give. So we're going to call that a win. And this is something I should make very clear, guys. A win isn't simply winning the battle without gaining experience points. It's trying to do it efficiently to conserve our Pokemon as best as possible. And now with Takedown, there is a lot of, is this good enough? Or should I go for something better? And usually after 20 minutes, I'm like, okay. Unfortunately for the 3, I think it is, channelers, we're going to have to do the constant swapping because there is no option to use Takedown since they're ghosts. But that's okay. You can see we have a pretty interesting team of Pokemon assembled. I mean, can I just say one thing that's very cool about this challenge is I always felt like Pokemon was supposed to be played this way. I said this in the Zero Experience Challenge, but using the wild Pokemon from the surrounding areas, it felt like Vulpix is near the grass gym, Dugtrio's near the electric gym, Bellsprout's near the water gym. So we're kind of playing the game the way it's intended. Although maybe we weren't supposed to have like 1,000 different Pokemon, but hey, I'm having fun. I mean, it's 25 species, but lots of iterations of each one. Now, at this point, we're going to skip a lot of stuff. I mean, it's not battles, just a lot of catching. And there's some really cool Pokemon we're going to catch in the Pokemon Tower, the Snorlax in the Safari Zone. So we're going to have some really interesting combinations coming up, which I'm very excited to show off. let's show off my very first battle with Koga. We have a level 25 Raticate, Haunter from the Pokemon Tower, Nidoqueen and Nidorina we used a Moonstone on, Venomoth from Safari Zone, Fearow, by the way, I'm not trying to show them all off, I'm just swapping because it's the most efficient way, and of course, our good old Dugtrio number 2. It is under-leveled, so we're actually going to swap into Haunter here, mostly because I was hit by a smokescreen and that kind of sucks. And although it takes me a while, Nightshade does knock out the coughing. Now, Muck comes out, I try and put it to sleep, it's going to take a while. Thankfully, Muck just goes for Poison Gas and Sludge. Both of them are very resisted by Haunter, and eventually, alright, I put it to sleep, it wakes up, I put it to sleep again. Out comes Fearow, and now we're going to go into Raticate, and then we're going to go into Venomoth, and then we're going to go into Nidoqueen, or let's go Dugtrio, and now let's go to Nidoqueen. Now, Nidoqueen does not actually have a ground move, so we'll go back into Haunter, and I don't have Dream Eater, but I can put it back to sleep. I'm no longer lower in accuracy, and it is confused. Ah, darn it. All right, we'll be fine. I want to conserve Haunter anyway, so we'll split it 5 ways. Okay, Coughing is next, and we all know what Wheezing can do. If you've watched my channel before, and I have to now look at experience points, just make sure I'm not over-leveling. Remember, there were a few trainers in the gym, 2 to be exact, so I have gained some experience points already, but here, this Coughing, we're going to use Dugtrio and Dig. We know it's not going to one-shot, and we are lowered in accuracy. And now, essentially, what we need to have happen is we're going to go Takedown, and that's exactly what we wanted. Wheezing uses Self-Destruct, no experience points, first try victory. I never thought we'd get to this point. Now, that Raticate and Dugtrio, Fearow we can use a little bit more. Venomoth's pretty good. Nidoqueen's pretty good. Haunter is good-ish. Catching that Haunter took like 20 minutes, by the way. It's very hard to get. It's only on the top floor where all those trainers are. It's a frustrating thing to get. But we'll get rid of that Raticate. But it did its job. By the way, when it comes to that Raticate, I don't always have like, oh, this is going to be for Koga. It's more, this is a Pokemon at a reasonable level that can soak up some experience points. Let's use that. It wasn't the perfect Pokemon for the job. It was one I had available that would just be a good swap and experience point sponge. Some Pokemon are meant for it, like Nidoqueen, Venomoth, and some of them are, well, this exists and might as well soak up experience points with something I don't really care about. Now, once I have Surf, I have access to the Power Plant. We never go in here, but there are some really strong Pokemon here, including, I'm not going to be, by the way, oh yeah, I should mention this, legendary Pokemon, they're banned because, well, that would be really cheap. But level 40 Voltorb and Electrode, those aren't banned, and those are the Pokemon that are going to take this run from pretty bad to significantly less bad. I'm also going to head to the Pokemon Mansion. One thing I should mention is that some of the time I am spending is using what's called the Repel trick. Repel prevents Pokemon that are lower level than your lead Pokemon from appearing, and you can catch level 40 Tentacool in the water. It's hard, but I did catch it, and that will allow me to find a level 42 Wheezing. None of these Repel tricks are fast, because even though you theoretically just get one encounter, the encounter rate and like the slot it will appear, I don't even completely understand how it works. But just know it does take a while, and it can be very tedious. And sometimes there are multiple Pokemon that can appear, but you can see from the team that I flashed quickly, I have some really high-level Pokemon. But that Electrode, which is actually level 43, let me show you why it's so great. This mandatory trainer in Sylph Company blocks the card key. He has one Pokemon, an Arbok. I go Self-Destruct. Done. Battle over. That took 5 seconds. No experience points whatsoever. And if we have a team of Pokemon that can do that, and within this building, Sylph Company, the TM for Self-Destruct is present. So between Pokemon that can learn it naturally and Pokemon that learn it via level up, for teams with very few Pokemon especially, we potentially can just zoom through battles. Yeah, we're going to have to heal a lot, but that's okay. It's relatively much quicker and no experience points risk. This gets me thinking whether I can beat an entire game with Self-Destruct, but that would be absurd. And certainly not the next video that is coming out, no siree. Major battles still require quite a bit of guessing and checking and just trying different things. We lead with Voltorb, and I now know that I need to use Swift a certain number of times in order to knock out the Pidgeot, and I get lucky that Self-Destruct hits. Voltorb doesn't have great attack. So now we go into Dugtrio for Gyarados and do some swapping. We're going to swap into Muck. This is from the Pokemon Mansion, and then into level 42 Weezing, also from the Pokemon Mansion, and then Tentacool from the water. And we actually let Tentacool get very weak, and then back into Weezing, where we can go for Sludge, and then Knockout, and 430 for each. Now Growlithe, now I'm going to have to split through everything because Weezing is already out. Tentacool is going to soak up some XP, that's perfect. So is Muck. Now I should plan this a bit better, so the Pokemon I want for the next Pokemon is out. In this case, it's Dugtrio. And it's at only 11 HP, so I might be able to use takedown strats against Alakazam. I'm going to try it, and I went for Psybeam. Okay, that's all right. Electrode, I can go for Self-Destruct, and now I can just split the experience points 3 ways, and that should be fine. Again, it's not like I can't get more Weezing or more Muck. The Electrode, there are a limited supply. There's only, I think, 2 of them. So that I need to be careful with, but the Muck and the Weezing, I don't need to be. And so we can get 591 on each, and we're good. When we do need to be careful, by the way, is when we teach a TM. Once we teach Self-Destruct or Explosion to these Pokemon, then we need to make sure that they have enough experience points to soak up. That would be when we need to be careful, but for now, we can just replace them when they get too full. Giovanni 2 is next, and we lead with Omanite. It's level 30, and it soaks up experience points. It's in the slow level up group. For Nidorino, we just need to split it because it's a pretty weak Pokemon. Splitting is fine. Now, I taught Self-Destruct to this Weezing. I believe this is a new Weezing, which is good. And then once it gains 200 experience points, I can Self-Destruct against Kangaskhan. That's perfect. And now I can go into Voltorb against Rhyhorn. And wait a minute. Yeah, I guess I gotta go Sonic Boom. Wait, this was a bad play. I'm probably gonna lose Voltorb. Whatever. It's not a big deal. I mean, I may be able to take it out with Voltorb. Let's just try now. Oh, great, crit. Okay, perfect. And now Nidoqueen, I do need to be careful. I don't know exactly when I need to Self-Destruct. I'm kind of just eyeballing it. But if I get... All right, we just have to use it. And yay! Okay. Like, I don't know exactly when. It's just when it looks right. Also, we get a Master Ball, which I'm going to use because that is a free catch. So, Omanite, Tentacool, Muck, Weezing has 3,800. That should be good. Now, remember, that Self-Destruct TM is gone. I burned it on that Weezing, which I thought would be the best option. I still have the Explosion TM, but if I messed up, we're out of luck. You can't get more Self-Destruct or Explosion TMs, so this Weezing better be able to go all the way, or we could be in trouble because one of the biggest concerns is all the experience points you could gain by beating Elite Four Pokemon. They're very, very powerful. Easy if you know what they're doing, but hard not to gain any experience points, and Self-Destruct and Explosion will be integral. But if I screwed up, especially because at the end, we're gonna face a 6-Pokemon team, we might encounter a situation where we simply cannot split the experience points. The math doesn't work out. Hopefully, and I have done some calculations, but not perfect ones, I have figured out a way that could work, but it is a concern, and once I use that TM, I've started to set some gears in motion that could end up being a problem, but hopefully they won't be. But now that I have 3 Self-Destructors, I can go Voltorb on Victory... Oh, okay. Not Voltorb on Victory Bell. I mean, I can. I just have to not use Self-Destruct immediately. I need to go Swift, and let's go another Swift, and then this is fine. Just come on. All right, now we Self-Destruct. Okay, and then Weezing should one-shot Tangela, and then Electrode should one-shot Vileplume. Okay, the crit may have mattered. Who cares? 0 experience points. There's Erica. Sabrina has 4 Pokemon, though, so we need to be a little bit more creative. All right, so here's what I did. I lead with Snorlax. Yep, Snorlax. And I go Amnesia a few times. And then when I'm, oh, come on, I go Takedown and knock myself out. Perfect. So that didn't gain any experience points. Next, I go into Voltorb for Mr. Mime. And I know that it's 1, 2, after a barrier 3. And we should be fine to go for self-destruct at this point. Perfect. Now I know Weezing will take out Venomoth. And it goes for Leech Life. This is fine. And then finally, I know Electrode will take out Alakazam, I think. All right, it does. Okay, perfect. So that took a few attempts because of the Snorlax thing just wouldn't work out a bunch. Takedown missing is terrible. And there is Double Edge, but like Self-Destruct, we only get that once. At least Takedown can be rebought over and over. And that is a way we can salvage a situation if we waste a Self-Destruct Pokemon. But I'd much, much, much rather use Self-Destruct. Way less math and trial and error involved. Also, I think I've said guess and check a few times when I've meant trial and error. I'm thinking of like grade 4 math class where it's like guess and check. I've meant trial and error. It does effectively mean the same thing, but like, yeah, that is more what I actually meant. I just realized now. All right, we're knocking down these gym leaders just one after another. Now, one thing I'll tell you is this is not my first battle with Blaine. You might wonder, why is Tentacool at 23 HP? It's intentional because at 23 HP, first of all, Growlithe can only go for agility because of the weird AI of Generation 1. If I go for 3 Screeches and a Takedown, I one-shot and knock myself out. 0 experience points. Now for Ponyta, I need to go for Sonic Boom. It actually does more than Swift, I think. It does around the same. But once I get 2 hits, I can go for Self-Destruct and we're fine. Then I go for Weezing against Rapidash. This one, let me look. All right. Actually, what do I do? Is this should work. This should work. Okay. Yeah, it's Self-Destruct just works. And then I was thinking maybe I should go Weezing against Arcanine because, yeah, now we're in a bit of trouble. I need to weaken it to actually, that's about it. About 2/3. And the crit helped. So that's Blaine. Sadly, Giovanni has rock Pokemon. So it's going to be a little tougher, but we do have some Pokemon that we're not going to use for Elite Four, like Omanite, that potentially we can use in a more traditional way. But things are going real good right now. There's 2 random trainers we have to fight, but we'll probably be at Giovanni really soon. But something you may or may not know is you actually can proceed to Route 23 pretty much just before entering Victory Road without beating Giovanni. Again, you can't get into Victory Road, but because it's not just one, hey, you need all the gym badges, you can access this grass here, and this grass here has some pretty powerful Pokemon that I can use to help make Giovanni easier because he was actually being very annoying. So what did I need to do? Well, I beat the Fighting Dojo and got a Hitmonlee. And with Hitmonlee, now Rhyhorn usually doesn't attack, but it definitely can. I go for 6 Meditates. And then, because I was getting really tired, I'd been streaming for 6 hours, I use a 7th and an 8th. No, I'm kidding. There is a method to my madness. I need my HP to be low enough that Submission, an 80 base power move that I never use, it is the strongest fighting move within Generation 1, but it deals back recoil damage, but works perfectly here. Dugtrio, we outspeed and self-destruct with Electrode. That one was easy. Weezing... So for Weezing, we actually have to go for Sludge a few times, which is very annoying. It's double resisted, and I wish I had a better move. Honestly, I probably could have taught it Takedown, but whatever. We got Nidoqueen to the perfect amount of health. Then for Nidoking, I actually have to go for Reflect in case it goes for Thrash, which it did. And then it crit me. So I now... okay. In theory, I actually can, so I don't really need this Sand Slash. I can basically just get Sand Slash to knock out the final 2 Pokemon by itself, so long as it doesn't actually faint to its own submissions. And funny enough, we survive on just 2 HP. And with 1 more submission, we actually round to 1 HP. And since I don't really need this Sand Slash for Rival 6, and it's so high level, it can just soak up enough experience points, I will replace it, right? Now, I won't be able to replace it for Rival 6 because it is beyond Rival 6, so hopefully I don't need the level 41 Sand Slash. But if I just want to call it a day, I can just do this and call it a day. And that is what I do, because after 6.5 hours of this, well, just today, it's like, what, 10 hours overall? I was starting to get tired of this challenge. Rival 6 was very annoying. It took me a half hour to figure out a strategy to beat him. And this is what we ended up doing. We use Tentacool versus Pidgeot because, like with Growlithe, Pidgeot must go for agility, and 2 takedowns knock out Pidgeot after 3 screeches, and we knock ourselves out. Now, Rhyhorn was annoying because originally I was actually using that Sandslash, but I swapped to Hitmonlee because I don't actually need Hitmonlee, so it can just knock it out in a traditional manner. And then I let Hitmonlee do some damage to Gyarados, and then it knocks itself out. Weezing will then go for Sludge. Gyarados is kind of bulky, and then self-destruct. So now we have Growlithe versus Voltorb. I do need to use a couple Sonic Booms to weaken it. Actually, 3 Sonic Booms, and then self-destruct will knock it out. Then Electrode versus Alakazam. We can go Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt, you might be wondering, why aren't I just self-destructing? Because Electrode's kind of weak. And then this Muck, I actually taught Fire Blast to. I'm not going to need Fire Blast. This Muck has just one job, and it is to defeat Venusaur in the traditional manner. That is the danger of using self-destruct. There is just going to be one Pokemon aside remaining, and it needs to have enough experience points left, and this Muck did. I can replace it, albeit without Fire Blast, so we're going to have to find a different way to beat Venusaur in the final battle, but it took a long time to put all the pieces together, and after now 7 hours of streaming, I decided to go to bed. Now, sorry ADEF, but I'm not going to see a single trainer in Victory Road because they're all optional. We have just 5 battles remaining, but these are going to be some of the toughest 5 battles. We are not going to be saving between, because if I mess up, we might be just completely done. We might be done. The run might be over. So I'm going to have to do this in one shot, not for challenge purposes, but simply because I don't want to have to redo this whole thing. What this means is, even if you see me beat Lauralee once or twice, or how many times you see it, it actually might not be the final win. The question isn't whether we can beat one or any of them, it's whether we can beat them in a row without leveling up. This is going to be an incredible puzzle to solve, and it would take me a very long time to determine whether I could solve it at all. I know I haven't been showing a lot of losses lately, but let me show you one here to Lauralee. I know, spoiler alert, but it's a good example of it isn't just about doing this efficiently. There's so much that goes into each of these battles, and it's so easy for them just to not work. So Dugong will only go for rest because Machoke is fighting type. So I can go for submission at 21 HP, knock both out. Great, right? Well, next I have to deal with a Cloyster. Cloyster has super high defense, so I send out Weezing. I know it seems weird, but with a couple sludges, and I have the HP down to a science. I don't remember it right now, but it's not really relevant. I think it's about half, and then I can go for self-destruct. So, okay, we haven't gained a single iota of experience. Things are looking great. Then against Slowbro, Graveler goes for Explosion, and you can see here, I hadn't actually made it this far yet, so I didn't know how much I needed to do or how much it would do. By the way, it learns Explosion naturally, and look, Voltorb didn't even knock it out. So this is actually me just guessing and checking with Muck, and then I knock it out with Sludge. This is the error part of trial and error. Okay, so now how much does Lapras do to Electrode? Oh, that's a ton. And so this strategy just didn't work. Now, let me tell you guys something. There is a website called Kingler Calc. It's not perfect, and it's broken for like a couple of the early generations. But when I say broken, I mean the calculations are slightly off, and I don't know why. And I'd love to talk to someone because it is otherwise so great. And it would have given me a very good idea of how much I should weaken Pokemon. But because I didn't know about the site yet, its calculator is intended only for competitive battles, which don't incorporate badge boosts, nor do they incorporate the fact that AI Pokemon don't have any stat experience, which makes it incredibly difficult to use. There probably is a speedrun specific calculator, by the way, that I could be using, but Kingler Calc for Gen 1, I find it works really well. I didn't know about it yet. This was recorded in December. Actually, this one was recorded, it looks like January 13th, but it started in December. I've been battling Loralee for about half an hour. I haven't won yet, and I'm still trying to figure things out. The Machoke Dugong thing works perfectly, so we're going to stick with that. And this is the first time I decided to use Electrode for Cloyster and go for Thunderbolt, and then once it was at an extremely low amount of HP because it's so bulky, use Electrode Self-Destruct here. Now, I was being overly cautious. Slowbro has to go for Amnesia here. It cannot go for Withdraw or Water Gun, so we're fine, but at the same time, I don't know, I just want it to be safe, and this Muck has Explosion. Now against Jinx, thankfully it has really, really bad defense, and it doesn't have a Psychic move, so Weezing can go for Self-Destruct. But the problem I was having is Lapras just knocked out everything, so meet Articuno. I said I wouldn't use the Legendary Birds, but here is me using Legendary Bird Articuno with Double Edge. That's right, I am using Double Edge, and you can see what I'm trying to do, trying to whittle my HP down, and then use Double Edge to knock both out. This was unbelievably lucky. However, as much as I am celebrating in the video, we should not be celebrating, really. It is a more, looking back, a hollow victory. Now, you'll notice that I prioritize revives over potions with my money. This makes sense because a lot of times with Double Edge and Takedown and whatnot, it's more important to be at half HP, and reviving Pokemon is super important. But if this isn't the right team, if we need to make a change for Bruno, or Agatha, or Lance, well then we're gonna have to redo that entire Lapras section. And what do we get? 2 Super Potions and like good Confusion luck? That's likely not gonna happen again. So Loralee might still be a big problem, but problem for future Jrose, right? Now against Bruno, I can no longer manipulate my HP, so I really need to know when I use Submission and when I don't. When Onix uses Rage, it's very helpful because I know if I'm at 20-something HP or lower, I can go for Submission. Then against Hitmonchan, I know that I go for a singled Sludge. Ooh, now I actually don't know because it used X-Defend. So I'm going to go for a few more, and then this should be fine. Better safe than sorry. Okay, next we have Hitmonlee. And this one I actually do know Explosion just one-shots. That's great. And then we haven't seen Graveler yet. Graveler has both Self-Destruct and Explosion. It learns those naturally via level up. That's why I love it. Thank you, Victory Road. Now I gotta get this Onix pretty weak, but then I can go for Explosion. And now we have Machamp. Unfortunately, though, Explosion from Electrode wasn't enough. And even though Articuno can easily beat Machamp, we now have, well, actually 7,000 experience points. Isn't terrible, but that was inefficient. If we get back there the same way, probably Electrode can finish the job. But the question is, how long will it take me to get back there? And it did take me a while because there are quite a bit of luck factors, including the very first thing with Onix. It was very difficult to get that Onix to cooperate with me. However, just 6 minutes later, I get this battle where once again, we're looking for Rage. We get it. Rage makes things so easy. And even though Submission can be a little annoying with the misses, we get it. Now we have Electrode versus Hitmonchan. That's a change. Muck versus Hitmonlee. And then Graveler versus Onix. And then Machamp. Now what we have instead... Oh, wait. Graveler took experience points. That wasn't supposed to happen. Well, we can go for Explosion here. And then we can actually go for Self-Destruct with Weezing. I mean, 4,300 isn't terrible. But no, that doesn't work either. And so we're just going to have to redo it. Even when we win, we lose. 10 minutes later, our strategy is now changed. Now we are using Graveler? Wow, that's weird. And we're actually going to have Graveler go for Explosion against Onix. Electrode on Hitmonchan. I mean, this seems so weird, but I'm telling you, this worked a lot better. And I just wanted to make super sure. I was always super safe. Also, Hitmonlee was a range, by the way, so we did have to go Sludge. All the Pokemon can knock me out with crits. And now it's the second Onix. I was actually having a lot of trouble knocking out this Onix. And so we held Machoke back for this Onyx, and then when we get to the perfect amount of HP, we go for submission. That doesn't always happen, and now we actually go for Smokescreen against Machamp, and we start sludging because it can knock me out. In fact, it can go for Fissure and knock me out, and it takes a lot of sludges to make sure self-destructs one-shots because I'm so under-leveled, but we don't gain an iota of experience. That doesn't make any sense. We don't gain a single experience point. That's the actual English, but I'm not an English teacher or a teacher of any kind. I just play Pokemon, and you can see we have 10 revives. That is enough for the rest of the Elite Four. I have started saving because I am really hoping that we're good, and if we're not good, that's bad. What a statement that was. That was a 10 out of 10 statement. But I haven't gained many experience points. These are, in my view, the best Pokemon, and I really don't want to redo the Lorelee or Bruno battles. It has taken me an hour to get here. But Agatha will have a problem. One we've already encountered with the Channelers. There are 3 Pokemon where Self-Destruct, Takedown, Submission, all the moves we've been using so far. There is not a Recoil move, even Struggle, or an Exploding move where we can take out a Ghost Pokemon. So now is where we need to have the experience points. We need to make sure that we have the right Pokemon gaining the right amount of experience. This is unbelievably stressful. And oh yeah, her Pokemon aren't too bad either. But before I talk about Agatha, I want to see something really weird. All my Pokemon have been revived, right? So look at this. See those darkened Pokeballs? Well, typically that means that Pokemon has a status. But if I go into the menu, you can see that those Pokemon clearly don't have a status. So I think what happened is because I used Self-Destruct / Explosion or knocked out via Recoil, that like mini Pokeball sprite hasn't updated. It's very, very strange. I can't explain why this happens. I don't know if Bulbapedia has it recorded or not. And not only did I want to double check this, but I wanted to show off to my stream that this in fact does occur on original hardware. This is a console. That's a Game Boy Advance SP, cartridge of Pokemon Blue. I don't know. That expression says it all. Anyway, it doesn't actually mean anything or do anything, just interesting. All right, so how do we actually tackle Agatha? Pun somewhat intended. Well, here's the thing. Oh, wow, we got a really lucky freeze there. Ideally, we swap in all Pokemon for the first Gengar, but there is something that does happen. I think it's 25% of the time. That's very not great. I'm going to actually have Electrode knock out the first Gengar. By the way, Sonic Boom actually does affect Ghost Pokemon. And each Pokemon gains only 300 experience points. And then I can weaken Golbat. But look at that. Haunter swaps in. That's what I was talking about. Now, I don't want Electrode to gain experience points versus Haunter, but I can't really stop it. Actually, it's not necessarily a bad thing. But uh-oh, now Golbat has come back. And Articuno is out. And I don't want Articuno to be out versus Golbat. So now what, right? I guess we go back to Electrode. And now back to Articuno. And now am I going to just sack Articuno? But we can't do that because if I do that, then I don't have Articuno for the last Gengar. And I kind of need it for the last Gengar. So what do? I'm just kind of swapping back and forth and thinking, kind of waiting for Golbat to kind of make a choice for me, but it's not doing that. So what do I do? Oh, there's Haunter. Okay, now we can do something. I froze it. Okay, wait a minute. Now if we swap every single Pokemon in, now things kind of work out for me. I just need Electrode to be the final Pokemon, because then if Electrode knocks out Haunter using, Alright, we can knock out Golbat, and now we'll split it 5 ways. Alright, see, this is what's so frustrating, right? So now I swap in Articuno, I split it 5 ways, and then use Weezing to knock it out. And then Arbok, I can go for Sludge, and actually, I need to go for Explosion here, or Self-Destruct. Oh, boo! This is really bad, because now, I guess I can go for Double Edge. Okay, that's great. I'm being a little sarcastic, but maybe I can just split the experience points 3 ways and just use Graveler with Earthquake to knock out Gengar. Come on. Oh, I think we're done. And yeah, that's what this is like, guys. That's what this is. It seems like something's going to work. And this is what you're not seeing in the losses. The losses can happen at any time. A billion different things can go wrong in every one of these battles. And you're seeing where everything happened to go right enough. Not even perfectly right. Just right enough. And I could easily just show a supercut of the literal hundreds of battles that just didn't work. Some of them because I hadn't gotten the strategy right, and that's clearly the case here. But others, even when I had the strategy right, well, didn't expect that to happen. Oh well. Well, after 10 minutes, I wasn't making any progress, and I actually got very frustrated. How frustrated did I get? I allowed myself to lose. I haven't gained very much experience points, and looking at how much each Pokemon has left, by leaving I can do 2 things. I can remove a Pokemon like Graveler that I'm not really using too much, and maybe replace it with a better Pokemon, and I have a bunch of money now. I can use that to buy potions. Unfortunately, this means I have to battle Lorelie again. And remember how terrible that was? Well, yeah, it's still really terrible. And the worst part is right at the end, which is the worst part to be terrible. Because, hey, fun fact, it can just go for Hydro Pump and crit me. And then all my whittling down the HP kind of backfires, right? And that's honestly the biggest thing that goes wrong with Lapras. I'm trying to knock out both Lapras and myself with Double Edge, but Lapras almost never cooperates with me. And I am a little underleveled. It's a fairly strong Pokemon. It takes about 5 minutes sometimes even to get back to Lapras because of all the other things that can go wrong. And then you get back and it just confuses you. And hey, I got really close, but close isn't close enough. And I am going to use Graveler. I couldn't find a better Pokemon. But now I don't even have, even if I want to use Graveler, it just gets one shot instantly. So this just happens, by the way, again and again and again and again. And I knew I shouldn't have, I mean, listen, I do have some more TMs and other things that will help me, but like, so help me, this sucks. Finally, after over an hour of attempts versus Lorelie, we get an attempt where nothing goes wrong. Here's where things can start going wrong, by the way. Electrode things can go wrong. Wheezing things cannot go wrong. Jinx things can go wrong. But the biggest one was just getting these Lapras attempts that didn't take 5 seconds. And finally, as we whittle down our HP, we have 28. We go for Double Edge. And it survives, but then knocks me out. And yeah, like, what am I going to do? Guys, it's been an hour, and, like, I'm done. So, what are we going to do? This strategy is very, very clearly not working, but what will work? Like, how do I make this better? I'm just doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. I don't think Einstein actually said something about that, but, like, what do I do here? And I would try battling Lorelie as I would think, but like, I didn't really come up with anything better. I had no idea what I was even supposed to do. I mean, supposed to do is if you're supposed to play the game this way, but I had no idea. I would battle trainers, get more money with self-destruct, but I just could not think of the magical solution that would make my dreams come true. And my dreams are very simple. I just want to beat that Lapras. And I want to move on to Bruno, but I can't because the game won't let me. After another hour, mostly spent just talking to chat, trying to figure things out, I seriously had no idea what it was I could even do. We get this magical battle where things go right with Machoke, things go right with Electrode, and things went wrong a lot here. Things always go right for Wheezing. And I have some new moves. You may see I have new moves, but I just needed the right luck. And with the crit... Oh, no! Are you kidding me? I thought we had that. No! I actually had to use my audio editing skills. That was so loud, but oh my god. 3 minutes later. Well, 3 minutes later, I mean, I don't know why I said it in French and then did it, but we get back to the Lapras. You know what? I'm going to let past Jrose take it away. Crit. Yes! Yes! Finally! Holy that took forever. Oh my god. Oh god, that was horrible. Sorry, I cut it off, but literally because there's like another curse and I have to mute them. But like, I think this was late and I'm just like, I'm sure there's people outside wondering what is that maniac screaming about it. I make myself laugh. You know, if you can't make yourself laugh, who can you make laugh? But okay, we have beaten Lauralee for the second time. I mean, obviously we could have beaten her, guys. That wasn't the issue. The issue was beating her without any experience points, because if during the champion battle we get in trouble, we want the most amount of experience points possible, because what is the strongest Pokemon? Articuno. We don't want it to have 1 experience point extra that it needs to. Now remember, I already had a Bruno plan, but it's been like 3 hours. Do I remember it? And this has all been one stream, by the way. The answer was no. I actually messed up a couple times, but then yes. Then I did remember it, and we're able to beat Bruno without gaining a single experience point. And this time, we don't have to use Articuno whatsoever. All right, Agatha now. This is what made me reset. I was unable to get past her. So what has changed? What new strategies, other than the fact I can heal? Like, what can I do here? Well, let me show you. After a lot more trial and error, we do lead Articuno, and we start with Ice Beam, trying for a freeze, but we don't get it. Now we have to swap in all 6 Pokemon to spread that experience points. I didn't want to see a Super Potion, but that's okay. Machoke comes out next, and now I have to think. All right, Machoke is out. We don't want Machoke here. So I go for Leer, and I'm just actually making this thing try to knock me out. But if it doesn't, I actually have a backup plan where I can try and go for submission. All right, good. It knocked me out. Perfect. So, no, actually, that's not perfect. Wait, I need all 6 Pokemon. Never mind, we try again. Isn't this great? So now, actually, let's go for Mimic and learn Hypnosis, because that will make things a lot easier. And then I can put Gengar to sleep, so when it comes back out, if it does swap out, it's sleeping, and that's great, because this is Gen 1 sleep. So we swap everything in, and again, we really don't want to see a swap. And now, oh my god, I hate Agatha so darn much. All right, we're going to use Graveler to knock out the Golbat. That's fine. We're going to have to split things 5 ways. Fine. Okay, now Articuno. God, this battle sucks. Electrode. Muck. Oh, Haunter is out. Okay, actually, this doesn't really change anything. We're just going to split this 5 ways, although this is less experience. Oh, no. Wheezing, help. Machoke, also help. I have Earthquake on Machoke now. That was a new thing. And all right, Machoke knocks it out. Actually, 4 ways is fine. Okay, Machoke. You know what? Maybe Machoke should just knock out Gengar. What am I using this Machoke for? Actually, that was pretty decent. Maybe we can split things. And then Muck. And now, back to Machoke. Sure. Okay, just knock it out. Just knock it out. Great. Okay, 700 3 ways is fine. Okay, this one, all right. I think Machoke's time is done. We're just going to go Leer. Oh, wait. This works. I can go Earthquake here. Wait a minute. It still has 2,600 left? Okay, wait a minute. I can go into Wheezing. Wait. Yeah, this is fine. Oh. Okay, wait. I can just go into Muck. This is fine. We don't... Okay, come on. We don't really need Machoke for Lance... And it can knock itself out. I mean, we won. Are we keeping this one? Articuno doesn't have anything. Machoke is in some ways our most useless Pokemon, and Earthquake was the new addition. I think we're keeping it. I think we're moving on. But after 4.5 hours of failed battles... that iteration of Jrose would have to go to bed. It was like 3:30 in the morning. And so I came back not knowing how long it would take me or even if I could do the last 2 battles. It had taken me 15 hours to get to this point, an absurd amount of time for a red and blue challenge. But how long would it take me to do the last 2 battles? Could it be even longer? We've seen it take an absurd amount of time. Well, guys, this is Lance. All right, this is the very first battle. We go Thunderbolt, and it hyper beams me. Wonderful. Okay, well, that's why I have Thunder. This is why I have Thunder. Let's go Thunderbolt and then Hyper Beam, and it knocks me out. Okay, well, actually, I probably, if it doesn't go for Hyper Beam, can go Self-Destruct after a Thunderbolt and we'll be fine, right? But it won't stop going for Hyper Beam because this game absolutely hates me. You know, let me just save here so I don't have to keep walking the 50 extra steps that clearly I'm going to have to do a billion times. Okay, Thunderbolt. Great, a crit. I would like Electrode not to gain experience points if possible. I think the champ's going to be atrocious. Okay, that's how much Self-Destruct does. Now we know that. So we got to get it to about 20% HP, which isn't going to be easy. Thunderbolt. Okay, that looks fine. Hydro Pump. I hate this game. Actually, that's not the game's fault. That's just me using a really bad Electrode's fault. Okay, Thunderbolt. Leer. Perfect. Badge boost. Yay! Okay, now Machoke against Dragonair. So, Dragonair, like we've seen before, must, and I do mean must, go for agility. Now, the problem is, I really need to make sure that my submissions knock me out. And there is a solid chance it doesn't. Yeah. That didn't do nearly enough to me. So, now you guys are actually seeing, I thought towards the end I'd give you guys kind of an inside look at how I start to math these out. But there are a few things I could do there. And I could save Machoke for Dragonite, by the way. Oh my god, I keep critting. This is... Alright, I'm going to have to fast forward you to an attempt where I actually get past Gyarados. And it's not going to be for a while because this is the worst. And I actually miss with Thunder because Thunderbolt Self-Destruct is actually a range. Isn't that amazing? Now, what I decide to do is go for Seismic Toss. And you might wonder, why am I doing that? Well, because if I do that, the Dragonair actually will... Wait, no. Maybe? Wait, that actually could work. I'm trying to get it to use Hyper Potions. And then I go for Leer. Right, so I've wasted the Hyper Potions. That's actually what I was trying to do. And now I need it to go... Does it have another Hyper Potion? I actually think, no, this doesn't math out. I don't knock myself out. We gained that extra experience points with Machoke, and ironically, now we need it. Oh, God. So yeah, you see, I actually need to do Thunder and Self-Destruct, which takes 6 ever. Actually, it only took like 3 more attempts. But all right, we figured out a way to get past Gyarados. I don't know if it's the best way, but we figured out a way. And so, yeah, I think we go Submission, and now we wait for the heal. And yeah, that could work. So I think now it will heal because of the crit. All right, this is starting to work. I'm starting to see this in my head. Will it heal at this point? Maybe it won't. I'm going to keep going for Leer and hoping we get a heal. But maybe it has just a little too much HP. Let's go for side. No. So you can see what I'm thinking. Ah, gosh, this is frustrating. But that crit may have been the problem. So let's try without the crit. It only took me another minute to get back to Dragonair. So, okay, 2 submissions without a crit. Now, Hyper Potion. Okay, so how much damage do I do? Please hit. How much? Please hit. How much? Please hit. How much damage do I do? Okay. Okay, wait a minute. Wait a minute. This actually works out perfectly. I think. Maybe. Who knows? Oh, it's not going to heal again. All right, so I have to knock it out. Actually, that could work. And then wait. That was a mistake. That could work in theory. Maybe Machoke just takes out both Dragonair. It's a plan. I don't know if it's the right plan, but it's a plan. All right, only took another minute, 30 seconds. So we go Submission and then Submission. Okay, well, we need to hit twice. And then Dragonair should heal, but it won't necessarily heal. It's not a 100% chance. So I just have to now bide my time, go for Leer. There's the heal. And now if I go for submission, or I'll go for seismic toss. Can I put it within healing range? Oh, I can. And all right, it may heal again. And then, okay. So I think we can actually knock out a single Dragonair, but we can also knock out both. Let's just do that for now. It's progress, and this is our first time getting to Aerodactyl. So we have Takedown and Harden. Like, what do I do? All right, let's just do Takedown, and it uses Takedown, and I use Takedown. Eventually, all right, actually, this is a problem. I'm going to go Harden to get, all right, no, I just have to go for Explosion. All right, yay, no, boo. All right, Weezing, I choose you. Actually, wait a minute. No, Weezing, you're poo. And Articuno, all right, let's just knock this out. Just, I want an idea. Okay, and then if I go for, all right, fine, it actually outspeeds me. And how much, okay, so Muck, by the way, just like the Machoke, it has to go for Barrier and Agility. Now, in theory, I can just win right now. It actually can't attack me. And how much does Explosion do? Nothing. Okay, well, I didn't want Muck to gain that much experience, but we're seeing progress. I like it. Now, here is what I think the final plan should look like. So we need to go Thunder. Oh, Hyper Potion early there. And then Thunder. Again, Thunderbolt self-destruct's actually a range, so yay for me. Okay, so what we should do is actually go for Leer. 2 Leers. 3 Leers. And then Submission, because watch what happens once we hit. It knocks it out, and then we do the same thing, and then we get knocked out. It's just quicker, right? So now we have Weezing with Smokescreen and Sludge. We weaken Aerodactyl till basically it's almost fainted. And then we have Muck for Dragonite, and we just win. I think that works. I mean, once again, Machoke has had to soak up a bunch of experience, but like, it's the Pokemon I care about least going into the champion. By the way, that was like my 4th victory, but Articuno always had to knock out the Dragonite. I think this works. I think sometimes there's a line, and oftentimes in my runs like this, I have to remember perfection is the enemy of good. That's by Voltaire, by the way, but it's a really apt saying, and a lot of people suffer from this. Essentially, trying to go for the perfect battle where everything doesn't get experience points, it just would take too long, and now I beat Lance in 20 minutes, and I have hours to battle the champion. Let's see my first attempt. Obviously, I have no idea who I'm leading with, what I'm doing. I've decided to lead with Graveler, and I decide to start badge boosting Hardens. Why? Because, well, I can do a couple things here. I can do Takedown and actually recoil myself, but that's silly. The thing I want to do is, all right, oh, no. Well, that didn't work. So the first thing I actually should do in this next battle is go for Explosion right away and see how much I do. So the answer is about 75%. So that actually gives me pretty useful information. And unfortunately, it actually takes me a few battles to get Pidgeot to 75%. But it happens, and now we make it to Alakazam. And this is actually the worst Pokemon because it is very fast and very good. So we go for Thunder, try to paralyze it. We get a crit, no paralysis. It goes for Recover, and I go for Self-Destruct. It does about 60%. So I wish I had Thunder Wave, actually. That would be helpful. But this is kind of working. I'm kind of liking where this is going. Now, I did wonder, what if I swapped the order and actually used Electrode for Pidgeot? Because Electrode has such a weak self-destruct that I figured using it first would make sense, and then maybe Graveler could just use Explosion and knock out Alakazam. The problem is it went for Reflect, but if it didn't, I think we'd be fine. At this point, I kind of think, maybe I could go and do some testing, but no, I wanted a real attempt. Unfortunately, I don't think Graveler actually is the right Pokemon here, because even Psybeam one-shots me, so the only way I knock it out is if it goes for Recover, and that's a 25% chance. So I don't love that. However, there is a much more obvious strat that, for whatever reason, I wasn't thinking of. And you'll see it right now. We just knock out Pidgeot with Electrode like normal, and then we go for Self-Destruct right away because Electrode is done. I don't need to care about how much experience points it gets. It's done, and then Graveler can just knock out Alakazam. I can be a lot more aggressive here. Now, there is one downside we'll talk about in a second, but now I'm going to see, okay, Machoke versus Rhydon. If I go for 6 layers in submission, do I knock myself out with a nice amount of health? Well, only one way to find out. Actually, might as well just find out right now. I was waiting, I thought it wouldn't, and I'm right. So I have 17 HP too much, but that's really useful information. That's super useful information. I just need to be hit just one time and I'll be in a good range. But what if we just did this? I mean, Articuno has so much experience points it can gain. I can just knock out both Pidgeot and Alakazam with Articuno, and I still have plenty to spare. I can also knock out Rhydon. Like, look how far I can go just using Articuno, and then I freeze. So now, actually, I can knock out Articuno itself. Articuno's done, but like, look how much progress we just made with one Pokemon. And then we can split experience points, because I am a little bit worried, and it's frozen. In Generation 1, it will never unfreeze. So who do I want out? I think I want Graveler out, and I'll just go for Takedown and knock out Gyarados. Oh no, it went for full restore. Uh-oh, no. This was bad. Electrode, go help me. Save me from my own dumbness. Okay, great. So that was fine. Arcanine is next, and this is why I want to Graveler out. It doesn't have agility, and yeah, I wanted Earthquake there. I may have just messed up, because now I have 3 level 40 Pokemon against, well, some really good Pokemon. Although Arcanine has terrible moves, I might be able to beat it with just Electrode. Actually, how much? Okay, 4,900. That's a lot. I'm just gonna knock it out. Venusaur. Wait, this is it. Guys, this is it. This is the final Pokemon. I'm gonna try to paralyze it, but Venusaur knocks me out very quickly. Wait a minute. Hold on. Okay, it goes for Razor Leaf. I'm gonna go Smokescreen. Goes for Growth. That won't combo well with Razor Leaf. Okay, lots of smoke screens. And, oh, give me a break. So, okay, if Muck, I'm actually gonna go Minimize. And, oh gosh, darn it. All right, Sludge. Sludge, please miss. Sludge. Guys, this might actually just work. Oh, darn it. Sludge. I don't think I level up here. I don't, I win. Yes. Let's go. All right, I was overcomplicating the heck out of that. You know what? I was really, really worried that at the end I would level up. And turns out the brute force Articuno just knocks out everything strategy. It worked, but it only was able to work because I was so careful in the beginning. And that's the best part of a really good, safe strategy, is that in the end, I could just be super reckless. For those of you who watch baseball, it's like the ABS challenges. Do you use them early when you really think you need them? Or do you hold off to the end and then just challenge everything? You might be right, and it might change the game. And we got ourselves a victory. It took 15 hours, 25 minutes, 14 seconds, and 28 milliseconds. And this run was very fun to voice. I really enjoyed scripting the story, telling you everything. I've actually really enjoyed the last few videos I've made. And while I hated doing this run at the time, I almost wonder if I should do this in gold and silver because, well, the video was super fun to make. You guys will have to let me know. But in the meantime, this has been a long video, but I hope it's been worth it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon. Take care.